My name's Ben. It's a lazy afternoon, and you got to ask yourself, do you do more than just tell the time? All right, so I'm going to tell you this story. So a long time ago, in a different country, there was this guy that had gotten really, really good at one thing. He was so good at it that people sought after him from different places. People would travel hours and hours, hundreds and hundreds of miles to come see this guy do what he did. And you know what he did? He told the time. He could look up at the sky. He could look at the stars at night. He could see where the sun was during the day. And in a split second, just like that, he knew exactly what time it was. And he could turn to someone and say exactly what the time was. And what's crazy is this was a very valuable skill. For whatever reason, people loved this guy because he could instantly tell anyone what time it was. So in his town, he became very, very famous. People ended up coming to see him all hours of the day and night just to know what time it was. And he didn't mind. I mean, to tell you the truth, it kind of stroked his ego, made him feel important. He started to pleasure the idea of being able to tell time for other people. He enjoyed it, and people enjoyed it too. Well, after a period of time, his skill became so valuable that this town, they elected him mayor. They made a statue of him. They put it in the center of the town square. They started paying him huge sums of money because he could tell the time just like that. Well, this was perfect, of course, for a long time because he could tell the time to whoever he wanted to. He made money that way. People were happy that he had the skill and were happy to pay him for it. But all of a sudden, one day, he died. He died, and nobody knew what time it was, and everybody started freaking out because they didn't know how they could possibly learn what the time was, how to tell the time. So there was another guy. And this guy lived in another nearby town. And this guy, strangely enough, he had led a pretty quiet life. He wasn't incredibly public with his talents. It wasn't like he was flaunting them. I mean, he definitely used them. And he made money doing what he did. But this guy also had a talent for telling the time. The reality was, though, he realized that someday he was going to go away. He realized that someday he would no longer be around to be able to tell the time for people. So in his town, instead of spending all of his personal time running around making sure everybody knew what time it was and that he was always getting paid for telling them, he started to do something drastically different. He started to build clocks. He built innumerable amounts of clocks. And he started putting these clocks with everyone that he met. He gave everybody a watch. He sold clocks to people to put in their houses. He made sure that every individual he came into contact with that ever asked him the time walked away knowing that there was something that they could have where they could tell the time for themselves. And in doing so, he also happened to become extremely valued. I mean, people loved him, but eventually he died too. Now the difference is, after his death, everything that he had created, everything that he had structured remained in place. People could still tell the time. And believe it or not, generations after this man passed, people still were able to tell the time, even though they themselves couldn't look at the sky, see the position of the sun, and know instantaneously what time it was. They weren't out in the middle of the night looking at the stars and able to tell what time it was. He passed on that ability without having to pass on the talent. So I don't know what this might mean to you. I'm not going to try and interpret it for you, but what I do want you to think about is, what kind of person do you want to be? Do you want to be the kind of person that tells time? Or do you want to be the kind of person that has the wherewithal to make clocks? Hope you have a great Wednesday. We'll see you all later.